Hello, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Today let's talk about the brands that have been ruined by fakes and the sheer amount of fakes of these brands, and also why my previous video to you talking about this topic has been removed from YouTube by YouTube for breaching its community guidelines. I put out a video talking about this quite some time ago and really thought nothing else of it. In that video, I talked to you about the brands that I thought had been damaged, and the reputation of the brands had been damaged by the amount of fakes and counterfeits that are produced of those brands. And in the video, I shared with you footage from a holiday I had been on with my family to Turkey. And when we were in Turkey, we visited a 5-star resort. That's where we stayed. And I was very surprised to see in that resort a shop that was effectively a counterfeit boutique or a counterfeit handbag shop. And I took some footage of that shop. I took footage of the types of bags that they had. I took footage of their Chanel Classic flap, replicas of their Dior book totes, of their Louis Vuitton, of their canvas, of their Gucci, of their Hermes. And I shared that with you to show you how readily available this was and how it was so open that even in a 5-star hotel, there was a shop just openly selling these bags, which were so obviously counterfeit. The ones in the footage that I shared with you, I don't think were particularly very good counterfeit bags. They still cost hundreds of pounds or dollars, but I don't think they were the AAA or the fabulous type of counterfeit bags we hear about. I don't think I've ever actually seen one of those to see just how good the quality is, but these I certainly don't think were at that level. I did not realise that by sharing that footage with you that I was breaching the terms and conditions of videos for YouTube. I didn't know that that was a problem. I certainly wasn't recommending those bags or trying to sell those bags. I was simply sharing that footage with you to really show you what was so open and available, and also how shocked I was that it was so open and available. But 4 months later, I get a message from YouTube saying you have breached these guidelines and we have removed your video. So you can no longer watch that video, which means the whole video talking about the brands that I feel have been damaged by counterfeits or fakes have been removed. So obviously they can't just remove the portion where I have shared that footage, but the whole video on the topic is gone. So I thought, right, I better remake that video and I better give you an update as to why it's gone and it's no longer available. Now, the message I got from YouTube did say you haven't been given any warnings or strikes for this because we don't think you actually knew that you were breaching the terms of conditions. And that's right, I had absolutely no idea. If I knew that I wasn't allowed to share that footage with you, I wouldn't have shared it. I thought I was sharing it as an example of what we were talking about and how open they were, and that obviously was my mistake and I shouldn't have done that. So I take no issue with it being removed. It wouldn't have been there in the first place if I'd known that. So thankfully YouTube didn't take a hard line on it because it was clear from the video that it was not a promotion of those bags. But it does mean the topic that we were talking about and those brands, that whole video was gone. So I thought I would share with you again today the brands that I feel have been damaged or ruined by the sheer quantity of fakes of them that are about on the market. And the first has to be Louis Vuitton canvas. My beloved Louis Vuitton monogram canvas. I love it. I have a lot of pieces of it. I have SLGs, my agenda, I have bags, I have my Neverfull that I use every single day to work, and I work in a corporate type environment. I use that every day, but I fully accept and get that the sheer quantity of counterfeited or replica Louis Vuitton canvas specifically would put a lot of people off buying that bag. There is no getting around the fact that if you go pretty much anywhere in Europe, you're going to see an awful lot of counterfeits of this bag. When I bought my first, my first beloved Neverfull, and this bag has been tattered and used and abused, and she's actually going to go and see if Louis Vuitton can replace a lot of her pieces and bring her back to life so she's not completely lost. Now they can't fix the canvas that's in the corners, I know that, but I'm hoping they can replace the leather around the side and the handles and the pulls, so I'm not always using my other one and this one gets a bit more life. What I love about this one, it is the old design that has the script Louis Vuitton writing on the inside. I really like that. I think it's really pretty and I would like to try and bring this back to life. When we bought this in Rome, I was 30 years old. It was my 30th birthday. I was there with my husband. He wasn't my husband then, but we were there for my birthday and we went into Louis Vuitton and I had saved up for this bag so long and I was so excited to finally get this bag. It was €550. Yes, €550 for the Louis Vuitton GM monogram Neverfull at that time, showing my age. But I loved it and I thought I was the bee's knees walking around Rome with my chocolate brown carrier bag and in it was my Neverfull. We walked a little bit round the corner from the Louis Vuitton store and in front of the Pantheon there were droves of Louis Vuitton Neverfulls on the ground. There were a lot of sellers who had their blankets out and they had lots of versions of the Neverfull for sale. And my husband, who would have no clue about this, he's a little bit more educated now with my addiction, but he certainly wouldn't be a luxury shopper, said to me, why don't you buy one of those and save yourself the money? He had offered to buy this. I wouldn't let him buy it. This was an achievement for me, having reached this and saved up and been able to buy it. And he thought this was a great idea. Buy one of those, save yourself a fortune. Obviously that was not an option for me. That's not what I want to do and it's personal preference. It's not what I choose to do. But I have to accept that the sheer amount of replica, counterfeited Louis Vuitton canvas would be very off-putting for people buying this brand or thinking about buying this brand because they know there are so many counterfeits about and they know that people may think their bag is counterfeit and they know that it may have a little bit of a question if they're carrying their bag and they know there's an opportunity. They may be walking down the street with their genuine bag and there's a person beside them walking down the street with their bag that's not genuine. And I get that. For me personally, I still love Louis Vuitton canvas and I will continue to buy it and I will probably be going to the grave in a piece of Louis Vuitton monogram canvas or my beloved agenda tucked under my arm. So it's not going to stop me buying it. And clearly Louis Vuitton's profits are still pretty high. It's not stopping a lot of us buying it. But I do think that there is a bit of damage to that brand in general and with the canvas specifically, because of the amount of counterfeits there are about. Number 2 is Gucci, and this is both the Gucci canvas and a lot of the Gucci leather bags. And when we were on that trip, I did see a lot of counterfeit Gucci Marmont bags, the camera bag, and a lot of the Gucci canvas in replicas. And I think that's another brand that is known to be counterfeited heavily. If you are on holiday and there's anywhere that you are that people are selling either on the beach or on the streets around the beach and they're selling counterfeit items, Gucci is one of the ones that's normally quite readily available. You will see the green and red webbing, you will see the canvas, you will see a lot of those bags able to be bought. And I myself, if you go way back on my channel, I had a Gucci Marmont in the beautiful pinky purpley velvet colour and it was stunning. And this was back when I knew a lot less about bags than I maybe know now. I had bought that bag on eBay. I did not get it authenticated right away or I would have been protected by eBay's policies. I left it too long. I never used that bag, not even once. And when I'd considered selling it, I got it authenticated before I sold it because I'd always had a niggling doubt that I bought it on eBay and I hadn't had it authenticated. And it came back as counterfeit. And I was pretty gutted that I had had one of those bags unknowingly in my collection for that length of time, and obviously all of that money was lost because I was outside the policies. If you choose to buy counterfeit bags, that's your choice and that's a choice that you make. What I think is absolutely deplorable is when people are selling counterfeit bags as if they are genuine and authentic and they're effectively scamming you and they're taking the money that you would pay for an authentic bag and what you're getting as a counterfeit. That in no way can be okay. That is a scam. That is duping somebody. That is taking their money for something that isn't authentic but trying to tell them that it is. And I certainly learned a hard lesson from that. And when that happened, I started to look into this a little bit more, and I saw just how many of these bags were about. Counterfeits, fakes, lots of them, lots and lots and lots of them. And certainly now, I think Gucci is also one of those brands that has been damaged to a certain extent by the amount of counterfeits, especially if you're on a European holiday. I'm not as often on holiday because I have two young children in further off places. Maybe it's not as big a thing there, but certainly on European cities, you will see so many of the street sellers selling Gucci. And that, I think, is something that damages the brand. Number 3 is the Chanel Classic Flap, this one. And with the ever increasing crazy Chanel price increases, we're talking £9,000 now, give or take a few pennies, for a bag this size. This is the medium classic flap in the caviar. It's £9,000. It's not very big. It's not as if, I don't even know what I could say to you could justify the worth of a bag at £9,000. It's a huge amount of money. If you're a crazy bag lover like myself, you're going to do it. I've done it. There's a Birkin sitting back there. These are things that crazy bag people do. But certainly whenever the price of these bags is now so high, it is understanding why so many more people, including very wealthy people, and I've spoken before in a video about wealthy ladies or men buying counterfeit items who could readily afford the real item, but there's reasons why they decide to buy the counterfeit instead. And I genuinely believe with the vast price increases on these, that more and more people are going to be considering buying the replica version or the counterfeit version, especially if they can get one of those very good type replica versions, instead of spending £9,000 on this. Unless you are a true handbag lover and brand lover and enthusiast, I can see why you're going to consider saving probably £8,000 or more, £8,500, buying a bag that looks the same and getting the replica. Personally, it's not for me. I don't buy replica bags. It's a personal choice. But I do think the amount of replicas that are now going to be flooding the market of these bags is going to put people off or make people question buying the original, because they're already having to get over the very high price point, and they're going to be seeing other options that potentially look almost identical or identical. Some of these you can't tell the difference to the naked eye, and they're going to be considering, why would I buy that when I can buy that? So I do think that this is going to damage this brand. Certainly when we were on that trip, there was a lot of these in that store. They were not very good quality. You could easily tell they were counterfeits, but they were readily available and people were buying them. Definitely was buying them. I saw it with my own eyes. So I do think, yes, the Chanel Classic Flap is another one that is being damaged by this. Number 4, and this is one that I was a little bit naive about. I did not realise the Dior book tote is as heavily counterfeited as it is until I went on holiday and opened my eyes. And there was lots of them, and they were clearly, some of them obviously counterfeit. Now, they still had the Dior branding as if it was an original, but it was clearly not. There obviously were also originals. There were some bags I saw that were absolutely stunning. In this particular store as well, there were Dior book totes, but they were also obviously counterfeits. I didn't realise there was just so many of these, and I have to admit that when I noticed how many of them were counterfeit, it did make me think that that's damaging the allure of the book tote a little bit. Now, I very much like the small book totes, especially whenever they come in some of the limited edition different prints. I think they're stunning, really beautiful as a little bag to carry. I appreciate they're maybe not the most practical bag in the world, but very cute. I also see the sense why some people buy the bigger ones that you can throw everything in. For me, that will always be the Neverfull. I think the Neverfull's more usable, but I get why people are attracted to this bag. But I do think that it being a canvas type material bag that is effectively a square box or a rectangle box that is so expensive when there's so many counterfeits of them about, and again, I am probably drawing on my own experience in Europe rather than further afield, that it's going to damage that brand, and it's going to have people thinking, but there's so many fakes of those and I can't bring myself to spend that much money for that original because it's not that much of a usable bag and there's so many of them walking the streets that are clearly counterfeit. And the last brand that I think is very heavily counterfeited, I have seen a lot while in Europe, is YSL. A lot. Now, a lot of them were very obviously counterfeit, but there's always going to be the risk that you're getting those very high levels that you can't tell the difference. And that's a worry. And I do think, and we've talked before in this channel about how the pre-loved market is slowing down to the point that it's almost dead at times, and it's taking a long time to sell bags. They're not moving the way they were. They're not moving at the same prices. And part of that has to be the fear that you're going to get a counterfeit like I did. You're going to get a fake bag, but pay the money for an original. And then you're left trying to fight that and fix that and get your money back or get rid of the bag. And it's all a bit of a nightmare. And I think people are going to be a lot more cautious to buy pre-loved. They're going to go to very, very reliable sellers that they know the bag should be genuine, and even if it slipped through the net, that the seller will stand by that bag and that they won't be out of pocket, because it's hurtful to lose that sort of money when you think you're getting an original bag and you don't. And YSL's one of these that there's a lot of counterfeits about. There's a lot of them. You see them very often, and it's just one of those bags and brands that I think, especially with the more traditional styles, maybe not like the eye care tote and the bags that are being released, that's probably not just as readily available yet, although I did see a counterfeit of the eye care tote in Turkey, although it was awful. It was very clearly counterfeit. But they're coming through. And as I said in that video, when I was in that store, somebody had walked in and shown the lady a picture of a bag that hadn't yet been released. And her response was, "We don't have it yet, but we're getting it." So they're always working to catch up with the bags that have been released. They're always looking to get counterfeits out there flooding the market of bags that are just being released. And it has to damage some of these brands. It has to make people think twice about the amount of counterfeits. When I've put these videos out before, talking about the pre-loved market, talking about wealthy people buying these bags, and this video that was removed, there was so much discussion in the comment box about people saying, yes, I would now consider buying a counterfeit because of the price increases, or no, I wouldn't consider buying those bags because there's so many counterfeits. It's definitely having an impact. And I think it's a really interesting conversation. I do ask, please keep it kind in the comments, because there's very strong views on either side. A lot of people feel, well, it's my choice to buy a counterfeit, and of course it is. Other people feel, well, you're damaging the brand, it's copyright, it's theft of intellectual property. And there are, of course, the stories about the very, very concerning working conditions of the people behind the counterfeits, who's making them, if it's funding crime, etc., etc. So it's a very, very emotive and difficult topic, and understandably people have very strong feelings on it either side. As I've said, personally for me, I don't buy them. That's my personal choice. But please keep it kind in the comments. Of course, express your opinion. Of course, give your view. But please, if there's people in the comments with a different view, please try and be kind. Thank you so much for watching me. Let me know what you think of this discussion. Let me know what side you feel you come down on, and what you think about this high level of them flooding the market and what it's doing with the price increases, and if you think those two things are linked, and what you would personally decide if you had a choice to make between buying a very high quality replica or an original. Thank you so much for watching this. If it has been in any way informative or entertaining, please do consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you're not done with me yet, I'm going to leave another video for you on the screen to enjoy. Thank you so much for being here. Please take care, and I will see you again in the next one.